I don't get the message, so you got to run the pitch.
You're on point five.
All the time, Tip.
You're on point five.
All the time, Tip.
You're on point five.
All the time, Tip.
So then grab the microphone and let your words rip.
Now here's a funky introduction.
Okay, this is Gary Creeley with Steeple Sound, and I want to show you a little bit about this PreSonus Studio Live 16.4.2 soundboard. Essentially, this video is somewhat introductory for those who maybe aren't familiar with this particular board, and for those who maybe have it or thinking about getting it, this will be for you as well. Essentially, what I want to focus on today is this section of the soundboard here. The faders are down here, and you know what faders are and you know how they work, so that we can have a better view of this section. We won't be looking so much or at all at the faders for today, but just know they're right here, and that might be another video. Okay, most of this video is going to revolve around this section of the board right here. In its current arrangement, it is showing us a scene location, but we're going to move this to input. I'm going to start with a channel strip, and just for ease, I'm going to start right here with channel 16. This is your gain knob or trim, depending on the soundboard you have or are familiar with. This works very much like an analog board. This is not recallable. It sits where it is. So this is one portion of this board, and this is one compromise PreSonus made to bring the price down to where it is. This is the 16-channel board. Street price on this runs somewhere in the $2,000 neighborhood. This second button here, 48 volt, that's your phantom power. As you can see on this particular board, I have the phantom power on across the channels, just so I don't forget to turn it on. I leave it that way. This next button has to do with some of the recording ability of this board. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but this board is capable of recording. It can take all 16 of these channels in. In fact, it takes a number of other channels in. Each aux can go in as its own channel. Each subgroup can go in as its own channel, as well as the effects A and B can go in as their own channel. So you actually get more than 16 discrete channels out of this. You can also bring channels back in. So if you recorded 16 channels, you could mix them live. So if I were to hit this button, this channel 16 is no longer taking the input, the analog input, but it's taking a FireWire input from the computer, assuming you have something on there and want that. If you do this while you're mixing live, it'll just turn that channel off and you'll wonder where it went. So we'll leave that off. That's sort of the recording side of this board, and I really want to focus primarily on the live side of it. Now as we come down, we have this LED, which we're going to talk a lot about, but not yet. Then we have a knob here, which we will talk more about, but not yet. And that button has to do with the rest of this channel. This is a handy little indicator to tell you which channel is currently selected. We have channel 1 selected at the moment, and this is showing us the fat channel. We could select 16, and that would be showing us the fat channel. Solo is how most solos work. Mute is how most mutes work. And there you have your basic channel strip. Much of this center section doesn't specifically have to do with the channel. Basically, from here and then skip all this to here is the channel control. All this is more flexible stuff that can be used in different ways. Okay, let's deal first with the fat channel. So if you select any one of your channels here, so we select that, we can see that we have a high pass filter, we have a gate, we have a compressor, or we can set that compressor to the limit, and then we have our equalization frequencies, where we have low, low mid, and high. We can put shelving on the high and low to change the type of filter that is, for those of you who know. And you can somewhat change the Q here. There's just another setting for the Q. If you don't know what Q is, don't sweat it. But that to say, this EQ section is powerful. Maybe not as powerful as some of its competitors, but considerably more powerful than analog board in this price point. So when this is selected, all those things that I mentioned, when a channel is selected, that's what this does, and that's what these LEDs indicate. Various things: frequency gain for the EQs, compression, ratio, attack, release, gain. While a channel is selected, that is what this displays. This presonus board is very clever. So it is able to use this in multiple different ways. These knobs, while that is in a channel selected position, adjust these various things, okay? But that's just when that is selected. There is another way these can be used. If you see here it says meters, if we push input, now we see input from all our various channels coming in. So channel 1, now this is associated directly with channel 1. Before, when we had this selected like that, it was associated with what other channel was selected in whichever thing this was. If we go back and say meters input, now each one of these is related to the channel that's inputting, that's getting input, and you can measure the output of that particular channel somewhat less useful. The other thing related to these on a per channel basis is your aux mix. So if I hit mix, now what I'm looking at here is the aux mix for aux 1. This is aux 1, aux 2, aux 3, aux 4, aux 5, aux 6. In the 24 channel version, you would have 10 auxes. In the, they call it a 16, I really would call it a 12 channel version, you get 4 auxes. But this particular model has 6. And so when you have one of these selected, it is showing you how they're mixed. Now I only have currently something on aux 1, so you only see signal coming in aux 1. So these knobs then control the level, and very quickly I can look across and see, oh, okay, this channel is here, this channel is there, nothing coming out of the monitor on this channel, so I can see, and I can quickly see how, how much more or less I'm adding. Actually kind of easier than an analog board once you learn that that's where this is. Similarly to that, our effects are right here. Now we can come in here and adjust those, what these effects are, but here's channel A effects, and we can go in and adjust more or less on channel A. Channel B effects, same difference. Essentially the presonus limits you to delays, to simplify it to its most simple form, reverbs and digital delays. Reverb is just another kind of digital delay. So you can have those two, use them as you need be, and for most people that is enough effects for a lot of stuff. You can get a lot done with those two things. Now on this meters thing, there is another important button called the locate button. Now you can't see the faders here, but the faders on this particular mixer are not motorized. So currently, with the particular scene that's recalled, right now all the faders are in the right position. If I were to go in and recall a different scene, let's say, here's a different scene. Let's recall this scene. So you hit recall. Now you see that's all out of whack. Now, what these meters are telling you, yet another thing these meters can be telling you in this mode is, where do I put my fader? So I'm pulling a fader down right now to get it to where that wants it to be. I'm pushing this fader up right now, or this fader up right now, to where I want it to be. See, oops, overreach under right there. So you can recall a scene and come in and bring all these faders, and once you get used to it, you can actually do it quite quickly. You can come in and get these all to that sort of zeroed out position like so. And then then you're recalled with your faders in the physical positions they need to be in. So that's the other thing that that can do for you. Saving a scene is as simple as, you hit your scene, you go to where you want to save it. If I wanted to save this scene, I could hit store twice, and bam, there it is. You can go in and name these. It's a little tricky. It's a little time consuming because you can only change one letter at a time, but you can go in and change those. Sonically, this particular soundboard is very much above its station in terms of sound quality. It is a very good, clean sounding soundboard. In my opinion, better than some soundboards that cost 2, 3, 4, and 5 times what it does. So I'm very impressed with it in that regard. There are a couple of other buttons here that I do want to talk about briefly. One is your pan button. This is a stereo board. You can pan to the left or the right. Obviously, if we select this channel, we pan it over to the right like that. It's panned. Select the next channel. It's not panned. Go back to that channel. It is panned. So that's your pan button. The other thing is, let's say you have a acoustic guitar player, and the acoustic guitar doesn't sound very good, and you've really finagled the EQ and the compressor and some effects, and you really got this channel just the way you like it. Problem is that guitar player, rather than being on channel 10 where he was last time, moved over to channel 13. Well, what you could do is you could select channel 10, then you could copy it, and then you could save it to channel 13, load. Now, channel 13 would have the same settings as channel 10 for all of those things. That's handy. You can also save channels. So if he only shows up every 3rd week and you have a different guitar player with a whole different profile, you could dial that one in, save it, name it, dial this one in, save it, name it, so you can come back and recall those. All in all, this is a very formidable board. A whole lot of bang for the buck, and frankly, it's going to be our go-to entry-level board for most customers really trying to move away from straight analog unless there's a really specific purpose for it. But for most churches, this board will offer a great deal of help. Every channel has that compressor and gate on it. That is a big deal in and of itself. If you have a preacher that gets loud and yells, if your kick drums and your snares, if you're micing your drum set, that's really critical. Even acoustic guitar players can kind of be choppy at times and need some compression on them. So all in all, this is a really fantastic board. It shows up in a lot of our systems, and it's a great starting point. We have more expensive boards than this. We have better boards than this, way better boards than this. But I think this is a reasonably remarkable board for its price point, and we've had a lot of good luck with it. It also has an iPad app and a computer control. You could control this board besides the gain and the auxiliary output, main output levels are also analog and fixed. But once you have your gain set up, you could pretty much run this completely from a computer. And in fact, it's a little easier from the computer. One of the things on the computer program, you can name your channels. Just type in the name, Jim Guitar, whatever it happens to be. And if you do that, then if you use the iPad app, those names are on the iPad app. So I have walked up to the platform and helped mix monitors while I'm there. Like, oh, I need more of me. So I can sit there, turn it up and down, and actually hear it going up and down. And we can sort of work collaboratively and not even need to use the talkback system. So highly recommended. It may be showing up at a church near you. And if you have this board, I hope this video is helpful as a refresher or just to familiarize yourself with it if you're going to start to join the media team and use it at your local church. So again, this is Gary Creeley with the presonus 16.4.2, and gets our thumbs
You're
up.
on point five.
All the time tip.
You're on point five.
All the time tip.
You're on point five.
All the time tip.
So then grab the microphone and let your words rip.
Now here's a funky introduction of how nice I am. Tell your mother, tell your father, send a telegram. I'm like an energizer 'cause